You've got Iran and Hezbollah moving precision rockets in to defend the front lines from behind. And at this point, after Erdogan having attacked and killed IRGC and Hezbollah commanders in a drone strike behind the front lines, now these people are supposed to be his friends. He now brings Hezbollah and Iran directly into the fight.
Right.
And at this point, and then what happens? Do they strike back? At which point the Americans are like, "Oh, it was Iran attacking our NATO ally," and then that'll give them. So now we can move in on the idea that we're not attacking the Russians. I mean, how does this end?
Travelling to a game here at Anfield, or maybe following the Reds away from home. There's a good chance you'll be connecting to public Wi-Fi somewhere along the way. But did you know that the free Wi-Fi is the hacker's favourite pitch? So instead of chasing the ball, they're ready to steal your sensitive information.
At some point, Putin has to stand up, smack Erdogan across the mouth and go, "Idlib is not yours." And then bomb all of his dudes back to the Stone Ages and start bringing troops and tanks and resupply to the Syrian army into Latakia as quickly as possible. And I do believe that he's probably doing that.
He can do that, not go the sanctions route. Sanctions on Turkey.
Well, he could sanction them as well. I don't even think he needs to, because it's already playing badly at home. Remember, Erdogan sent Ankara police to arrest journalists from RT. The head of RT Turkey got arrested the other day. Like, he's doing the secret police thing and now jailing journalists and going after Russian journalists. I got news for you, dude. Putin's going to read him the riot act. And the real question is, can Putin bring enough ground forces to bear to stop this guy? He's got the second largest army in NATO, but it's untested. He's killed all of his high quality pilots after the coup. He's killed most of his high level commanders after the coup. He had to get rid of them all. They were all working for the United States. He killed them all. He killed most of his F-16 pilots.
Okay.
And fighter pilots are not something you just like regrow. They're not like, they're not like apples. You get more of them next year. I mean,
no. And then there's also the Libyan front, Turkey and Russia,
where he's losing. And notice that he's pissed off Greece and he's pissed off Cyprus. Greece is moving troops into Western Thrace. Erdogan had to pull all his troops out of Western Thrace to reinforce Syria. And he's hoping that the Greeks vetoed the NATO statement supporting his move in Idlib.
Yes, and
Greeks are pissed off. The Greeks want Western Thrace back.
And he's opened up the borders.
Yeah, and he's opened up the borders to try and blackmail Europe,
which will piss off the Europeans.
Well, he's trying to blackmail Merkel and Macron into giving him material support.
I don't think it'll work.
And no, worse than that, he's busing ISIS and Al Qaeda. He's not busing Syrian women and children, okay? Because the Russian and Syrian airstrikes and the way those the women and children are coming this way. They're going towards Damascus. They understand that that's been the case all the time on this. These people have been used as human shields. No, it's his Takfiri freaking crazies that he's trying to protect, and now he's going to send them into Europe. He's busing them from the border, from the Turkish-Syria's border up to Bulgaria. Bulgaria's pissed off with them. Hungary's already closed the border. Greece has moved more ships into the Eastern Mediterranean than Turkey has to stop the migrant flow. And he thinks he's going to play this game. He thinks he's going to continue to play this game. He's pissed off every neighbor he has. And now Lebanon, with a government, by the way, which is no longer run by a Saudi satrap, even though they're dealing with a currency crisis and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, if they default on the debt, so what? Let some European banks fail. Let some American, let Goldman take something on the chin. Who cares? If I were Lebanon's government, this is what I would do. If I were Hezbollah, if I was Nasrallah right now, I'd be like, don't pay $1, not one. Because there's a bond repayment. There's a bond rollover repayment due, I think, this week for Lebanon. It's been a big deal. Remember, there was a headline: Lebanese bonds hit 1,000% yield, or whatever. So, no, I mean, Nasrallah will be moving Hezbollah. Hezbollah's been out of Syria for 2 years because the Syrian army and the Russians had it under control. They didn't need to be in there. They're the best urban fighters in the world.
Mm.
And the big push by HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, that took Sarakib, which is where the M4 and M5 highway cross in Idlib, right? Sarakib's already been retaken. Oh, by the way, I mean, the fighting's intense and everything else, but the question now is Erdogan going to move all the armor into Syria? Can the Syrians redeploy their air defenses to the point where they can actually shoot down Turkish F-16s? And if they do, will Erdogan lose his mind? I don't know. I think, but to be honest with you, I think that if the Russians don't betray Syria here,
which I don't think they're going to do.
No, I don't either.
They've got.
I think Erdogan's out of power by the end of the year.
Yeah, they've got so much invested in Syria.
I don't think they're going to betray Syria here. I don't think they can afford it because Erdogan is the guy who's going to put in charge the very people that. Look, the whole reason that the Russians moved into Syria in the first place was to prevent a balkanization of Syria with a failed state that then could point hundreds of thousands of Chechens and Chinese Uyghurs and Sunni Takfiri crazies and Wahhabi Sunni and all these guys and point them at southern Russia. The whole point of this is to destabilize the southern half of Russia, the soft underbelly of Russia. Okay, that's the point. Because they'll go from what is now Syria up through Turkey into Armenia and then, start. It's so very obvious what the plan is here. And Putin's made it abundantly clear. I'm there to kill terrorists, and I'm there to kill all of them. Period. And he's angry with Erdogan because he made a deal with Erdogan to stabilize the situation in Idlib and start separating these guys out so that they can be killed, removed, whatever. And Erdogan hasn't done it. The entire time since they formed that de-escalation agreement at Astana in 2018, Erdogan's been allowing them to friggin' bomb Damascus, for Christ's sake. There's incursions across the friggin' DMZ and the Turkish troops that stand there and go, yeah, well, it must suck to be Syrian. And got news for you, at least 12 to 15 of those Turkish observation posts are now in the control of the Syrian government, the Syrian army. Those guys are all hostages, by the way, which is what Erdogan's really worried about. And the Syrians have already threatened them, say, oh, by the way, these are now hostages. They're now prisoners of war. Leave Idlib and you'll get your men back. They should start executing one an hour.
Okay. All right, Tom. Well, thank you. Let's move on.
Again, I'm not even arguing at this point that any of this stuff is right or not right or anything else. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's what Erdogan would do.
Yeah.
Really, at the end of the day, you have to realize that this is what we're dealing with now. And I think that the totality of the problem, coronavirus, the dollar short, the net debt problems for the Turkish lira and all this stuff, I think Erdogan's out of power by the end of the year. I think there's an internal coup against him. I think both Putin and Trump would be happy to have this unreliable guy out of power because he's completely unreliable.
Yes.
Thinking that he can play both great powers against the middle and survive. You should ask Angela Merkel how well it's working out for her.
That's right. Now, the other group that I think are going to be out within a year are the American soldiers in Iraq.
I do too.
Yeah,
I don't think that there's any. Yeah, no, I agree. I've been talking forever. You go right ahead and if you want to expound on that.
No, I don't have much more. See, you're able to bring in all these different threads, right?
I don't have the best part about this is I don't need to do a live stream tonight.
Too much opposition, right? Trump doesn't want. I don't think Trump wants the troops staying out there. Like you said, he wants to save money. He wants to please his base. And there's just so much hostility in Iraq to them. And all they got to do is keep picking away at the American military.
Yeah, no, they're going to continue the power. The best way to beat the Americans is for the Americans to get tired of the whole process.
Yeah, like what's happened in Afghanistan. So I think they're going to be out. Now, the thing that you said...
And so it's even what's... No, go ahead.
Sorry, Tom. Just the signal just there's gone a little bit shaky. But,
got it.
But I just... Because I want to just a little bit... That was all I want to say about Iraq, unless you want to say a little bit more. And then the Americans in the Syrian oil fields.
I do. On for a second, Rich.
Sure.
All right. Are we good?
Yeah.
You still there?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know. My wife came home. Her phone might have started like uploading pictures or something. So, all right. I have such limited bandwidth. Sorry guys, if there was a glitch in this,
No problem.
we'll edit that out.
I'll edit it.
Or not.
We'll edit it out.
The Syrian situation is unsustainable for the United States. When they got Muqtada al-Sadr back on side with the rest of the Shiites, at the end of the day, it's nearly over. Alawi can't create a government. It's going to be a mess for a while. And the attacks against American troops are going to be, again, I think, again, Trump miscalculated. He was given bad information that killing you would be a good thing. And all it's done is Shiites against him all across the world. And that's dumb. So he's going to have to deal with that. So
yeah. And then the U.S. troops in the Syrian oil fields? Because
eventually you got to deal with it. I would have said by the end of the year, but not with Erdogan. Idlib has to be cleaned up first.
Right.
And Idlib is now a much more complicated situation, as we've gone over, than it was 3 weeks ago. So it could take a lot longer to clear up than we thought previously. This is going to be the last. Remember, all of this is happening 3 days before the Israeli elections.
Oh my God. Yes. And then the meeting on March the 6th between Putin.
Right. And I mean, or March 5th or March 6th. So you've got those two things happening literally at the same time. Netanyahu is trying to, obviously he's been bombing Damascus. He's been, it's very obvious that something is going on here. There's no love lost between Erdogan and Netanyahu. They don't like each other. Erdogan has no use for Netanyahu, and he has almost no use for the Saudis at this point either. He wants to be the Sultan of the Sunni world. That's what he wants, and he thinks he's going to get it. And so I don't know why. I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't really know. I know the Israeli election thing is just because of the timing, but I don't have a good answer as to why. Right? Spun out a lot of theories and a lot of ideas here today, but that one I don't have a good answer for. I know that this plays well for Netanyahu, right? But that's not to say that I think that Erdogan and Netanyahu are working together. There's any evidence of that whatsoever. There's none.
Okay, all right. Well, moving. I mentioned the refugees or the borders. Turkey's opened up the borders to let people through into Europe, which I think is going to provoke more nationalism and more dissension within the EU member nations, because they're going to be like, we don't want to be doing this. That's coupled with coronavirus, where they're going to be closing down borders and stuff. That's anti-Schengen in its nature and how it needs to be dealt with. And then you got the Europeans unable to work out, well, who's going to cough up? Who's going to pay for the money that the Britons aren't going to be providing?
They lost now, yeah.
That's right.
It's all bad for Europe. And they can't agree on a budget. And Christine Lagarde wants to open up the money spigots because German-style austerity isn't working. And it's not going to work because, look, and my problem is, and again, Austrian economists, libertarian, yada, 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 German austerity is of the IMF variety, where not only do you cut back on government spending, but you raise taxes. And that's the wrong prescription. You can cut back on government spending, but if you lower taxes, you lower regulations, you allow the private economy to thrive in an environment where it's not being taxed as heavily. So, but the IMF prescription for solving a currency problem is to raise taxes to ensure that the bondholders, like, rapacious assholes like Paul Singer and Goldman Sachs and the rest of them, get paid, who went in and bought all this debt after it crashes and then want to be paid back at par. They want to be made whole. And no, at some point, the governments have to stand up and say, that's not the way this works. And again, I also don't attribute, and my German followers will get angry with me about this, but I don't attribute, altruism on the part of Germany saying that they want austerity for, Italy and Spain and Portugal in order for them to get their houses in order, because that's not the way you get your house in order. You don't raise taxes. You cut government spending, you lower taxes, and you renegotiate the debt, because that you either renegotiate or redenominate or restructure the debt. You have to, or just write it off. At some point, the bank has to, when you owe the bank $1,000, it's your problem. When you owe the bank $150 billion, it's the bank's problem. And the media in the West always and without fail takes the banker side of the equation, and they use, sadly, they use the moralism, the cheap moralism, standing on the soapbox of, well, they're just debtors who won't pay their debts. They're just dirty Italians. They're just dirty Spanish and won't pay their debts. It's bull crap. You guys lent them. There's two sides to every loan. There's the lender and the lendee. And the lendee is not always the bad guy. The lender had to accurately assess the risk of lending the money to the lendee. And if they got that wrong, they have a responsibility on that side of it. I mean, and everybody always takes the argument, though, oh, no, we shouldn't pay anything. Like, look, the government here in the United States made a hugely bad bet on student loan debt. $1.5 trillion giving money to 19-year-olds to get education. Well, look, they can't pay the loans back. Like, the government has to take a write down on this, but we won't do that because it's because politically we should make the kids pay. Like, we're going to put them into debtors' prison so they can't have kids until they're 40. This is what you want? It's crazy. It's stupid. It's insane. And it's the same mindset is dominant in Europe. And so Lagarde and her and to a lesser extent Macron understand that the German prescription is wrong, but they're not offering a better one because Lagarde ran the IMF. They're going to do the exact same. It's the wrong one for Europe, but it's the right one when they want to take down a country that they want to get control of its assets and its banking system. So they use it as a tool of control. So that's what they did to Greece. That's what they're going to do. What they're going to try and do to Italy. They're already in the process of doing it in Italy, taking all the strip mining the country of all of its assets, handing it over to the banks. And that's why they're angry with. Just by the way, why we're so angry with China for buying like buying Greek ports and stuff, because like that was supposed to be ours. Right? It was supposed to be Germany was supposed to buy that stuff, or the United States was supposed to buy those ports, and the Chinese came in and gave the Greeks a better deal because they had more money.
Yeah.
All right. So I just find it really funny. But with all of this stuff, I think that the original questions that you were alluding to is that this is going to create a rise of populism beyond what we've already seen. And I think that's the right call. I think Alternative for Germany has plateaued at a certain level because there's been no need for the migrant thing has been off the radar. I also think that there's been an awful lot of very conveniently timed terrorist outbreaks in Germany where AfD is strong. I'll go no farther than that.
Right.
In order to try and blunt their rise while Merkel's Christian Democratic Union is imploding at the national level, the regional and national level. The Germans take over the presidency of the European Commission in July, and they need a budget passed. They also need new rules on immigration passed, and the EU wants that stuff into more. They want more fiscal integration. They want all that stuff to happen, and it's Merkel's job to get it done. But you can't sell it politically back at home. And if the coalition fails, or she has no power within her own coalitions, and we're going to know at the end of April whether who's going to be leading the CDU into the future, and effectively be leading the CDU into the German EU presidency, EU Commission presidency. All manner of things can go haywire there. Okay. Yep. So, and then we're still a little over a year out from new German general elections. And I fully expect between now and then that the effects of coronavirus, Erdogan doing the migrant thing, all of those things, I think we finally see the collapse of the center completely in Germany. It's already collapsed on the left. The Greens are now the dominant left party in Germany at 24%. Social Democrats are done. None of them will talk to Die Linke because Die Linke is too Eurosceptic for their tastes. Remember, Die Linke is the equivalent of, they're the leftist Eurosceptic party. They're like the M5S, the five-star movement, nominally what five-star movement is supposed to be, of Germany. And then you have AfD. I think AfD starts to rise. The big question is going to be whether Merkel can get Russian sanctions lifted this year and give some relief to Bavaria, and whether or not the CSU finally breaks ranks. Because if the CSU breaks ranks, because given their total polling, the CDU-CSU is polling about 28% right now. 8% of that is the CSU. So the CDU is only polling about 20%. AfD is polling about 14%. A 4-point swing through the 16% barrier on that front for AfD, even if they pull 2% away from some of the left parties, which is possible, because eventually the Germans are going to get over their generational guilt about being Nazis. It's going to happen eventually. They're not going to go to cultural extinction over over collective guilt over what happened in World War II. At some point, it's going to end. Okay, and there's a social stigma associated with going right in Germany that I think has to play itself out over the course of the next couple of years in order to get AFD through that crisis point. But there's no crisis in Germany yet, economically or politically. We're on the verge of both of those things. But until there's an actual crisis, AFD is going to still be in that position that they're not going to be able to punch through the 16% barrier and then move into the 20s. But once they do, and once they hold that for any length of time nationally, the CDU will never recover. Just like the Social Democrats will never recover. And the new German electorate will be the Greens versus AFD, with the other parties having to be minor parties. It's kind of what we saw in Italy.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So the center collapsed. Forza Italia and the Democrats, PD, collapsed for the most part. M5S rose, Lega rose. Lega's still there. The Brothers of Italy are now coming in to support them. The hard right in Italy is now 45% of the electorate, 43 to 45% of the electorate. And the center left is, the weak center left is 45%, and they can't govern. So, and now coronavirus is only going to make it easier for Matteo Salvini to take over in Italy, even if he has to do so from jail.
Yes.
So, all very interesting. But Germany is an interesting problem, and there's so much stuff going on that it's also a catalyst. It's political and economic instability is a potential catalyst for breakdown in the EU, because the ECB can only maintain a negative interest rate regime like this as long as there's safe havens and German debt and other things. And once that starts to go, and I keep waiting for it. I keep thinking it's going to happen, but until there's,
then you'll have interest rates rising without
and then the euro will fall, and carry trades will unwind, like we were seeing a week before the coronavirus finally hit the markets, right?
Right.
And the coronavirus was conveniently timed to end the month to prop up all of those markets on the monthly chart, so that in February, as well as January, on the last trading day of the month, the euro mysteriously rallied 2.5 cents back to $1.10 when it was on its way to $1.07, which is where it belongs. But miraculously, there was a big, huge move into the euro, and this morning it's trading at $1.11. By the way, at these levels, short the euro.
Okay.
Euro can't rally above $1.12, maybe $1.13 at the upside. There's no technical strength for the euro whatsoever. It's going to go lower. Again, the reason why I said at the beginning of this that I would have bet good money that the euro would have fallen today, which is exactly what I was expecting to happen in March. It happened in February. They painted the tape on the last day in January and moved it up. On Brexit Day, the euro rose 2.5 cents. On Brexit Day, like, do you have complete and utter disdain for us, like that we're complete IQ 60 morons, or what?
Okay.
And then the market's open on Monday, and the euro goes on a 17-day slide, or it drops 17 days in a row through February. It's crazy. All right.
Now, bringing more instability into Europe is, I think it's in a week or so, we're going to have local elections in France.
Oh, right. That's not even on my radar.
Oh my God, Tom!
Sorry.
Every Saturday.
Oh, I know every Saturday.
Twitter, and I put in yellow vests.
Right.
And I watched the feed about what's going on. I think it was just week 68 of the yellow vest protest.
Right.
And then joined by the trade unionists and the teachers and all of that, right? It's
no longer just some farmers from the hinterlands who are being squeezed on diesel fuel. Not that it was ever that beyond week 3. But go ahead.
No, and I've watched shocking videos of the police attacking firefighters who are demonstrating. So I'm like, how can Macron? He can't prevail. He cannot prevail. There's just so much opposition. Now, I have no idea, because you've not covered it, Tom.
I'm sorry.
About
I'll get right on that.
About what's likely to come, likely to happen in France, right? And then parallel to that, along at the same time, you've got UK.
I would think that the Duran is going to have that better covered than me. I'll be honest with you. I am.
Maybe we should get
they're
you
honestly my primary source on that.
All right, no problem. Maybe we should get you and Alex together again.
I did a podcast with Alex a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I listened to it.
I need to get him back on the podcast, especially with the new stuff in Syria. We good?
Yeah, no, the signal's breaking up again.
Oh, okay.
All right. And now, just across the water, as far as I can tell, and I actually don't pay that much attention to British politics anymore, right?
Right. I don't pay much attention to American politics for the exact reason.
But as far as I can tell, Boris Johnson's doing a really great job in terms of negotiating with the EU, playing hardball, and in terms of making sure that he retains the Labour seats in the north that he won, that have been, like the Rust Belt of Britain.
Yes, the Rust Belt of Britain for better.
So he's moved the Tories over to traditional Labour territory in a way, like becoming a one-nation Tory.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's exactly the right thing to do, and I think he got that. I think he got that from Donald Trump. How did Trump get elected? Trump won Pennsylvania and Michigan and Ohio, and nearly won Minnesota. And look. It's very clear that what Johnson is doing is saying to City of London, you're no longer can be the unipolar generator of wealth for the United Kingdom. That we have areas of this country that have not been rebuilt since World War II. And I've made this observation before. I'm a huge fan of Top Gear and the Grand Tour and those guys. If you go back and watch old reruns of Top Gear, you'll see all of these sites all across the north of England where they're doing these crazy things with caravans and bulldozers and all sorts of stupid stuff, but all in the background, all of these old factories that were never rebuilt after the bombings of World War II. Mm-hmm. They're all empty, these empty factories that used to produce cars. And how much did they talk about the lost British wealth? This is a very big deal for Jeremy Clarkson, who's, he may be a Tory, but you can see that, and it finally dawned on me about 6 or 8 months ago about how important that was. Because in conjunction with Johnson's platform, which is that he's redistributing the wealth and the focus of the British government spending and subsidy out of London and into the hinterlands, because he has to. He's doing exactly what Putin's doing in Russia, by the way, and he's doing exactly what Trump is doing here in the United States. He's shifting the way the taxes are collected and how they're redistributed. Trump is doing it to strengthen the South. And the southeastern United States is going to be if this United States survives to the 2030 census in its current form, the South will pick up between, I think, 6 and 9 electoral votes again. It's already going to pick up 6 to 7 in this census. It'll pick up another 6 to 10 in 2030. And it purely on a mix of global cooling and Trump's taxes. That's serious. Okay, because it's designed to move people out of the high tax states and into the low regulation states like that we have here in the South, where there's no income tax, there's no state income tax, there's no this, the property taxes are relatively low, yada yada yada. Britain has the same problem in that they've been choked to death by taxes, and whether or not the get woke go broke crowd in general undermines Johnson on this. If that doesn't happen, and we've reached kind of peak wokeness in British culture, and I don't know that that's the case because I'm not British, but it feels like you're getting to that point, kind of the same way that we're getting to that point in the blue states here in the United States. That if that happens, Johnson's going to be able to remake the British economy over the course of the next 5 years, especially if they hold a hard line on Brexit talks. Yeah, like if the trade deal talks and with them with an Australia-style, WTO-style Brexit, which, by the way, would be the best thing for the United Kingdom in the long run. Short term, it could be difficult. Long run, it'll be great. But everybody's going to get hit in the short run. So that's the part that the Brits should not be afraid of. And frankly, the general election vote in December told you categorically these people aren't afraid of it because they've already lost everything. Like the Gilets jaunes in France. You can't threaten people who've lost everything with losing a little bit more.
11 people.
It's not a powerful argument.
11 people killed. I don't know how many countless have lost their eyes,
yes,
limbs and stuff. And the catalyst for this in France was the fact that the middle class had been completely and utterly destroyed. It's the same thing with Brexit. For 3.5 years, these people made these very technical arguments. Oh my God, we'll lose 2% of GDP. I'm like, and these people up in the north are going, we've already lost everything. We lost 70% of GDP. Piss on you. Yeah.
Here's my 2 fingers up. No, get us out of this thing. Like, you know, and I won't try and do a Northern English accent because yeah, fuck you, right? I'm like, dude, seriously.
Well, I'm not going to swear on my channel. I know about your potty mouth, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm trying really hard here. But it's so very obvious, like what's happening here, and they don't have any other options.
Yeah.
Right. They don't have any other options because they don't have any other good arguments, because all the other arguments the emotional arguments are so very strong. It's the same. I mean, Farage and Trump and Salvini and Johnson. If Johnson's for real, I'm still not convinced of Johnson, but it looks like he's for real.
He shifts his positions throughout his political career, right?
But so is Trump.
Yeah, okay. One of the things I didn't know about that, Trump, but yes.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Trump's been a Democrat. Trump's been a Republican. Trump is a billionaire, like Mike Bloomberg. The billionaires go to wherever party is going to get them the biggest political advantage, and they just take the centrist line within that party.
Right. I think one of the things about Boris Johnson is that he was mayor of London for eight years,
right.
And I think he did a pretty much okay job. But you cannot be right wing mayor of that city,
right? Not in any objective sense, right?
Yeah,
but right wing
right. I think it just shifts you, and I'm sure he would have learned a lot from his experience there. What I find interesting is the impact and the effect on other EU nations when they see what the UK is doing, and then wait a minute, the UK is going to have competitive advantages to us, right? And then they're spending the money on themselves, not sharing it out with other nations.
It was never a good bet for the Brits. It was always a way to suck wealth from the island. I mean, I hate to remind everybody, but y'all have fought a lot of wars between France and Germany. And if you think that the French and the Germans actually like the Brits, like, oh, because we're all in the EU now, so we're all friends, right? Nah. Again, you know, it's not. Let's not. It's either racist. Like, yeah, I am. I'm Italian. Whatever. I'm sorry. It's like it's so very obvious. It's like I have a good friend of mine in my gaming group who's French and very French, and he's here on his. You know, going to hopefully help him get his green card this year and whatnot. He's a researcher. He's a great guy. He's a young guy. But you know, we did the whole France versus Italy thing on every Wednesday night. Like we just bombard each other with the worst, with some of the worst, most politically incorrect stuff going back and forth at each other, which is it's fantastic and we do it we do it at the mecca of political wokeness on the University of Florida campus at the Student Union, which is where we meet every week to play board games. But it's great fun, and we do it, and we get the most horrible looks from kids. Like, oh, he's old. Okay, never mind. Yeah, and they just move on. But it's great. But the point being is that those old entities are still there. The structures are put in place in order to make them to remind everybody of who's actually in charge. And the Brits always had one foot out the door anyway.
Britain's island mentality,
yes.
always geographically and physically removed from Europe.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and they should be, and they have different imperatives. The whole idea of the euro is dumb anyway. I mean, it's just dumb, and it's always it's trying to sell dumb things to people. Eventually, gets really expensive, and eventually the bills have to be paid, and that's where we're headed with the euro. Dumb ideas. Look. It doesn't make any sense for 17 or 19 countries, whatever it is, to all use the same currency when they all have different debt profiles and they all have different labor efficiency profiles and they all have different taxing systems. They all have this and they all have that. I know that the EU wants to make all that the same and get everybody into the culturalist, schna of EU regulatory oatmeal. I get it. They're never going to get there. The whole thing will collapse well before that. And Macron and Lagarde are going to try and shove a Green New Deal down the Germans' throats, and the German Greens they're the mafia within German society or German political society to get that done. And the problem is that I think about 75% of Germans don't want that.
No,
they don't want it at all. And I think that when it becomes very obvious to them that they're going to be asked to pay for what they don't want to pay for, that there's going to be a shift right in Germany, like we were talking about earlier, that along with like migrant violence and the rest of it, I don't know. I don't see it happening. I don't see it lasting. And I think Erdogan I think he's too clever by half if he thinks that this time he's finally going to get what he wants out of Merkel, when Merkel may not be in power 3 months from now. And then what happens to his leverage in Germany when Germany says, you send one more migrant my way and we're going to bomb you. Like, not that the Germans have a military, but, because Ursula von der Leyen was in charge of it. And now Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer is in charge of it as well. And so we keep putting these. I'm never mind. I'm not going to say it because I'm not allowed to be sexist or racist or anything else. I'll just leave that there.
Okay. Moving on.
I'll do that on my channel tonight. All right.
And I'll be sure to listen to the Democratic Party and the Carnivore Diet.
All right, let's do the Democrats really quick. The Democrats are going to implode for all the same imperatives that the German center is imploding. Right? They're all imploding over the same problems, which you can't reconcile the neoliberal bicoastal elite. Effectively, they're not even centrists because they're actually really right-wing neoconservatives that run the Democratic Party. You can't reconcile them with the hardcore progressives. And you can't reconcile those coalitions anymore. The Democratic Party was a hodgepodge coalition made up of basically three groups: minorities, supposedly disenfranchised minorities, the bicoastal smug liberals, for lack of a better term, and the woke crowd, right? Because none of those people want to identify as Republican in the same way that Germans don't want to associate themselves with Nazis, for lack of a better term, right? Any hint of Nazism they would want to just run away from. And I think we have the same problem here in the United States at a lesser level, certainly, though there are plenty of people on Twitter who think that the Republicans are Nazis, but they're crazy, and Twitter's not real life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Trump's a fascist. Well, actually, let me just say, Trump's a fascist. This is what I find that I don't agree with. Trump is a fascist. Boris Johnson's a fascist. Bernie Sanders is a communist, right? Or a Marxist. He's not. It's like for the people on the right, the other side of
he is. No, he is. He is. He's a Marxist, but he's at least honest about it. No, I'm dead serious, Rich. He's a Marxist. He believes that his arguments are straight out of Comintern from the 1970s. They haven't changed.
They seem more like social democracy.
But social democracy is a kinder, gentler way of saying communism. I'm sorry, it just is.
Okay.
But again,
the way I see it, this group over here on this end of the spectrum, say the other side are at the extreme.
Yes, I'll agree with. I think they're all. I think Trump is a fascist. I think Bernie's a commie. But I have good reasons for this. The people who are on the left that are arguing this don't have good reasons for it because they're actually fascists.
Yes.
They just want to control. They just want their corporations to control everything, as opposed to Trump's corporations. That's all they want. They think they want the destruction of the corporatist system, but they don't actually, because they want the ultimate corporatist entity, government, to fix the corporations. When government created the corporations in the first place, because corporations are government fiction created through special government charter here in the. This is part of U.S. corporate law. This is most of these people don't understand this. Like, if you want to stop the problem, get rid of corporations. Hey, us hardcore libertarians have been saying this to you for years, but they won't listen. And the reason they won't listen is because they just want to control the brass ring of power, as opposed to the other guy having it. What they're worried, what's driving them is the fear that the other guy has it and they don't. That's what this is about. Okay, and that's what's driving them crazy. And that's what drives their rhetoric. It's what drives their ideological possession. It drives all of that stuff. It has absolutely nothing to do with rationality. It's purely about fear of the other guy having control over the reins of power. And they've had reign, and the social democrats and the progressives have had control effectively over the reins of power for the last 140 years, and they've destroyed the world. Mm-hmm. And the world has only moved forward because of the graces of capitalism, in spite of their idiocy, as opposed to because of it. But we live in a world where people aren't ready to accept these newer ideas about how freedom and decentralization work, and therefore we're in a very ugly, in a long sense, very ugly transition period from tyranny to liberty, which is going to take far longer than yours and my lifetime. Because liberty at the kind of level that I'm talking about is a very young idea. Most people have no idea how to even deal with it. They don't even have the right terms. They can't even speak the language because it's a very difficult language to speak because very few people have ever spoken it. And very few, and even fewer than them, have ever spoken it well. I mean, I argue with hardcore libertarians that their language stinks, that their argumentative methods stink, that their arguments stink. And it's because we're just not very good at it yet, because these are very young ideas.
Yes.
How to properly decentralize the world. But technology is forcing the decentralization, and it's forcing that decentralization on the Democrats, and it's going to force it on the Republicans, and it's going to force it on the United States and the EU and China, and depending on how Vladimir Putin handles it in Russia, possibly Russia as well. He's the only one of the major world leaders who understands that he can't rule through a unitary executive like Russia has been. Russia was saddled with a unitary executive because it was easy for the United States to control the unitary executive, the Russian president. He's devolving power out to the regions and creating more autonomy within the Russian political structure. Again, go back to the podcast I did with Alexander Mercouris on my podcast. That's what we mostly discussed, was what was happening there, and use that as a model as to how Putin is trying to, in effect, decentralize the Russian government in a society that values a strong unitary state, right? The Russian society has always been built around a very strong unitary executive and unitary, they're not ready culturally. They don't want that culturally. I can argue all day long that that's the right way of going about it, but that's just like theory. There's the cultural imperatives here. Same thing in China. China's not ready for, anarcho-capitalism, right? And this is why the Chinese government's response to the coronavirus, if it's, which has been, in my mind, draconian, but who am I to say? It works because because the Chinese society understands that during times of crisis, you come together, you band together, you do this, this, and this. And the strong central government, if it functions well, will be strengthened by this, not weakened. And in the United States, the strong central government, and it's not our tradition at all. And so the draconian approach to virus control here is not going to work. The better way of handling it is through a decentralized process where the money gets distributed, the technology gets distributed, and then people just make good decisions for themselves. And they will self-limit their behavior because the United States is big and geographically not dense. I mean, our population density is miserable. So there's not going to be a catastrophic collapse of the society here in the United States. And even if it is, it's going to be in places that are not important to the supply chain of the world. It's going to be at a consumer level, yes, but we're the consumers, not the producers. Okay, and we're becoming less important consumers on a yearly basis, just from a population standpoint. So, the Democrats to circle this back, the Democrats are fighting all of those things, and they're fighting the breakup of their traditional coalition, because that coalition doesn't serve the people at this point, doesn't serve those people. Trump's numbers amongst blacks and Hispanics are off the charts high for a Republican. The Rust Belt, he's made some mistakes with the Rust Belt, but, he'll do okay with them there if he is smart in how he handles. He's got Trump's biggest problem is not coronavirus, it's crop failures from last year. And the lack of insurance payouts that are going to farmers and farm subsidies and all the rest of it. That's where he's weakest, because of the trade war with China and he's got a lot of rejiggering to do. So what a shock. Larry Kudlow is talking about get another middle-class tax cut for this fall. Politically timed, of course.
Of course.
It makes sense. So the Democrats, I think, are going to split because they're looking at the neoliberal, neocons, whatever you want to call them, the Clintonistas, want to retain control over the party. The progressives are actively trying to destroy it. The party has to split. Okay. We always thought that it would have to be the Republicans first, with the Tea Party and the neocons would butt heads and eventually split. No, the Tea Party lost. But the country won by building a bipartisan populist coalition that elected Trump. And could have elected Bernie Sanders. I'm not going to lie. Could have elected Bernie Sanders. If it had been Bernie Sanders versus Hillary Clinton, Bernie would have won. That's how much people hate Hillary Clinton and what she represents. And we understand it kind of viscerally, what she represents. We don't want that anymore.
No.
So Trump's rallied the Republican Party around, whatever it currently is. He's still got plenty of people who are, trying to actively undermine him. I don't trust Mitch McConnell as far as I can throw him. But I think that just being a node of stability like that is enough for the Democrats to kind of impale themselves and eventually break apart. And they're doing that right now. And honestly, it has to happen. One of these two parties is insanely corrupt, and one of them has to break apart to allow new blood to reform and become the opposition party in the United States. And my hope is that it's an honest left-wing party. Not that I would support it, but I would at least allow it to be honest.
Tulsi Gabbard, perhaps.
And that's exactly who I'm thinking of, because her statement to Trump the other day about Erdogan was spot on. That woman has stones. That woman is someone who I respect. That woman is someone who understands. She is rapidly, in my mind, becoming the left's version of Ron Paul, not Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is the false Pied Piper who will lead all these progressives back to the Clintons because he's going to get his payola. It's Tulsi Gabbard that they're actually worried about.
Yeah.
Because she's a woman with principles and she understands the problem. And I firmly believe this. I just don't buy that she's kind of, a CFR plant and all this stuff that the LaRouche guys want to paint her with. I can't buy that stuff. Like, I just don't buy it.
Far too independent, and in
She's
a way,
being shut out. It's so obvious.
Like you said, principled, assertively principled, like
Absolutely.
passing on the impeachment vote. Mm-hmm. Abstaining on that is what she did.
Yes,
Because
yes, she did.
This has no substance.
Yep.
Which is what you and I agreed on.
And she would have and had these. I know that I know what Tulsi Gabbard would say. Bring me real articles of impeachment against Trump, and I'll happily sign them.
Right. That's right.
Let's impeach him for killing Soleimani. Let's impeach him for stealing Syria's oil. Let's impeach him for these things.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, because those things are violations of the oath of office, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But she
has principles. So fingers crossed. Now, in the few minutes we have left that we scheduled for this, actually before that, Tom, thank you so much. I so enjoy doing these. And for those of you that are watching, please comment, and follow his channel and all that business and my channels. Comment and subscribe and everything, right? So thank you so much, Tom. Now,
absolutely.
In a few weeks ago, you said that because you had been high fat, low carb paleo, I think it is.
Oh yeah.
Very recently in September, you went carnivore. Now, I've been high fat, low carb for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
For the last 6 years, keto. And then the last few months since I listened to that, I've been keto carnivore.
Mm-hmm.
Which my wife said,
how do you feel?
I don't know if I feel any different. My wife says, well, no, you're just a carnivore that cheats. So I still have my spices and my garlic and my ginger.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Without the cheese.
I still eat cheese and stuff. But when I really want to go into it, I lost 35 pounds, or around 30 pounds since September, and I lost most of that in the first 3 months, and then I kind of backslid a bunch. I smoked way too many cigars, and I think that actually slowed everything down, which I need to stop doing.
What was you changed that you were doing when you were keto to become?
Oh, I just went on to eating once a day and eating a steak, and that was it. I ate a ribeye a day for the most part, not every day, but for the most part, once a day. Okay. At a minimum, don't eat for more than 8 hours in a 24-hour period. So you intermittently fast at least 16 hours. Yep. But it doesn't hurt to intermittently fast for 36 or 48. You're not going to starve to death, by the way. You won't. And the best way to get through the fast, mm-hmm. and the times when you get really, really hungry, and once you've gotten through and your body's used to being in ketosis and being able to switch back and forth between glucosis and ketosis, when the hunger pains really start, if you don't want to eat and you've still got fat on your frame, your body will find that fat and it will burn it, but you're probably electrolyte low and you're craving salt, not food. So you make yourself some low carb or sugar-free Gatorade. I use real lemon, which is real lemon extract sweetened with stevia, which mm-hmm. causes no glycemic spike, and little over half a teaspoon of salt into a quart. Okay. So it's basically salted Gatorade. It's really salty Gatorade, lemonade, and that suppresses the appetite. That kicks your metabolism back into gear. Because what happens is when you're on a high when you're on and the other thing is that you're probably also eating too much fat and not enough protein. That's protein that actually, the more we read about it, and my wife is reading Paul Saladino's The Carnivore Code, and actually she keeps buying new copies of it and sending it to people. Like my bank, like my Amazon account is like, like they're going to make Camille's going to make Saladino a New York Times bestseller on her own. But I adore my wife, and she's absolutely right to this. She's doing this to all the people that we care the most about, who are in my age, they're in our 50s now, and their doctors have got them on statins and all this other stuff, and that's just terrible for you. Mm. But as she goes through Saladino's book, which in her mind is kind of like the good calories, bad calories for the carnivore diet, it's very well scientifically researched. If you've read Gary Taub's Good Calories, Bad Calories, then you understand what I mean by the reference on it. Also, Nina Teaco's The Big Fat Surprise is also an excellent book and reference on this as well. But I didn't believe it. It's the during that early period of weight loss, and when you're burning fat, you are also ridding yourself of glycogen stores and a whole lot of sodium and a whole lot of potassium, and you're just peeing constantly because you're getting rid of a lot more water, and you're getting rid of water weight, and you're burning fat, and there's a lot more water produced in the fat, so it's a higher push on your urinary tract, because you're going to pee a lot more. But that's where you're peeing out your weight. Mm-hmm. And so with that goes all your sodium. So you go through a lot more salt than you think you do. You need something like 2 teaspoons of salt a day. Okay. So I look up at my spice cabinet, and Camille and I we were joking about it yesterday. We looked up at the spice cabinet, and we're like, Himalayan pink salt, Redmond salt, sea salt, kosher salt, canning salt, smoked salt, the 4 different types of smoked salt, nothing else. A little bit of garlic powders, we still have a little bit of that, but mostly eating meat. Now, do I eat that all day, every day? No. And if you want to cheat, one of the things we've also found is that if you are going to cheat, you can undo the damage from, going on a binge and going to the bake shop and all of that stuff and eating like crap if you go on a 36-hour fast after that, because it's intermittent fasting that allows your body to repair, because you're not spending energy digesting food. Now your body can go into a repair cycle. And so you can undo a lot of the damage if you're not constantly digesting food. So the first thing to do is get down to one meal a day.
I've been doing OMAD, 1 meal a day, for about 9 months now.
Yep.
Every now and then I transgress, but mostly it's habitual now. But I think it may be the fact, because one of the things I do, I go to a local butcher and I get what's called in Urdu charbi, which is the fat trimmings from the lamb you normally throw away. Come home, make a delicious curry out of it, and then I just eat that. You like that, right? I just eat that. So it's the fatty guts of lamb cooked in it.
No, absolutely. We bought a pig off of a guy. He finished it. It was the fattest pig ever. And we bought a whole pig and had it cut down. And we told the butcher, the processor, don't trim the fat on the pork chops or anything. We don't want it all. And the jowl bacon, which is like nearly 100% fat with just a little bit of connective tissue. The jowl bacon. Oh my God. So, pork chops with 1 inch or 1.5 inches of fat around the outside, brilliant. But, one of the things, there's something else, I can't remember the guy's name. He does the protein to energy. He's got everything based on protein versus energy. And I can't remember his name. He's got a book out, the Camille's, and he's on YouTube, and you can find him. But like it's like the protein versus energy guy. Search protein versus energy. You'll find this guy. Can't be that hard. To get you an idea of how much fat protein you should be eating, because it's protein that actually makes you satiated. But the problem is with 1 meal a day, we found, is that you can't get enough calories. Yeah. Like if you don't want to actively lose weight, how are you going to eat 2,500 calories in 20 minutes? It's without eating too much fat. And that's part of the problem. So you might have to go off of 1 meal a day if you're not actively trying to lose weight. Eat, a meal and a snack afterwards. We went out to dinner last night. We took my Camille's parents out for her father's birthday, and I had some grilled shrimp and some chicken wings over a little bit of rice. Didn't have anything else. A little bit of cauliflower. So I ate a whole bunch of stuff that I normally wouldn't eat, rice or cauliflower. But I knew that was not nearly enough calories, so I hadn't eaten in a day. So I went home, and then I made myself an assorted meat plate of some pork jerky, which my wife cuts thin slices like pork loin and beef, and then dehydrates it with salt, and we have bags of jerky in the refrigerator available at all times, and some pepperoni and, you know, some lunch meat, and sat down and watched some television with my meat plate, and it was good. And that was enough. That was enough to get me through the night. But I kept restricted my eating to about 4 hours for the entire day. We ate at 5 o'clock. We ate about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then I ate again about 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and then I didn't eat again. Haven't eaten since then. It's what, 10 o'clock now. I'll have a T-bone or ribeye in, you know, a couple of hours.
Now, eggs are okay, right? On the
Yeah, absolutely. If you can handle it. The thing about the carnivore diet is that what you do is, and the first thing I would recommend everybody do is, one, the salted Gatorade thing is important, because especially if you have to do that, because I did it. I didn't believe it. Got leg cramps so bad that I wound up passing out and getting 5 stitches in my chin. Okay, right. Seriously, broke my orbital socket, the whole 9 yards. Not good. Electrolytes are very important, because you're absolutely going to just pee out as so much salt, you're not even going to believe it. Even eating salted steaks, and just do it. And 2 or 3 quarts a day for the first couple of months until your body gets used to the new electrolyte flow. It will, because I now find myself not needing nearly as much. And keto brain fog is absolutely about, it's not about not getting enough energy to your brain. It's absolutely about not having enough freaking electrolytes. Like, dead serious. So I've seen it. You know, like, I've been sitting there in the chair, and oh my God, I want to nap, I want to die. I drink some electrolytes, and bing, I'm like ready to go, you know, run a marathon. Like, I'm ready to go, you know, write a newsletter or something. I mean, it's crazy how much and it only takes 10 minutes. So one of the things I would absolutely recommend is do the 30-day elimination diet. Do meat only. And if you can't afford ribeyes, fine. Hot dogs will do. Like, it doesn't matter. It's still better for you than any kind of standard American diet or any kind of plant-based diet. And this is the thing you have to realize, is that plants don't want to be eaten. There's a lot of anti-nutrients in plants.
Yeah, Tom,
they don't want to be eaten.
I was even before I was keto carnivore. When I was keto, I ate very little plants anyway. Yeah. What I've eliminated, the few that I ate, almonds, dates, bananas, and the occasional bit of cabbage. That was pretty much it.
I mean, we you know, like, I have a thing for, you know, sweet potatoes, or really we have purple sweet potatoes, which aren't particularly very sweet, but they make great fried potatoes, you know, salted fried potatoes, and, you know, and cauliflower, you know, like mashed cauliflower as opposed to mashed potatoes, as a, you know, you steam some cauliflower and then add butter and all the other stuff to it to make it edible. Otherwise, cauliflower is not edible. I mean, I've even gotten away from doing that, but the truth is, and honestly, read Saladino's The Carnivore Code. By the time you're done, you're going to want to eat like meat, salt, and olives, and that's about it. I'm dead serious. Like, everything else, like a lot of the plants that have antioxidants in them don't really have antioxidants in them. What they have are oxidants, which then trigger your body to produce the antioxidants necessary to overcome the antioxidants. Now, that's not to say that vitamin C is not good for you, or that taking like iodine and vitamin C, you're fine, but even them, you know, only in acute situations. If your immune system isn't compromised from eating badly, then 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C is enough to kill the flu. I mean, because your immune system is working at such a high level, because you're spending 16, 18 hours a day, you're spending 10 to 12 hours a day in repair mode, where your immune system is boosted, not under stress. And go ahead.
Just on that, Tom, I had a blood test done in November, and my white blood cells are all at the low end of the scale. Now, that could be a risk if I was having infections, but I'm not.
Right. You're not. Your body just doesn't need them.
Doesn't need them. Doesn't need to make them. I have very low inflammation. Now, I wanted to ask you, what are the differences you've noticed in terms of your health?
How about this, Rich? I've had no less than 50 people tell me in the last 4 months that I'm working at a better level, and my work has been better now at a higher level than I did previously. No less than 50 to 60 people all say, holy shit, Tom, that last article you just wrote, that was unbelievable. And I'm like, I'm just doing that correlation alone, that I can work at a higher level for a shorter period of time and have my life back, where I don't have to spend 15 hours a day working. I don't have to spend 6 to put out the output out that I put out. That's the big one, that I knew, I felt at a certain point for a long time that I had reached a point where I was beginning to struggle to produce, because I had moved myself into a corner. I probably had overstressed my adrenals to the point where I was not barely functional, right? And I mean, I tend to do this. I know this about myself. So there's that. In general, my ability to handle stress is a lot higher than it has been in the past. Like I don't get upset about things the same way that I used to. I just take it in and process it. So this in general, I mean, I'm not going to go into my bowel movements. I'm just not doing it. But I'm telling you that even when you do that, but when you do the one steak a day thing and you only eat once a day and you just have like a 1,300 calorie ribeye, you're in such a calorie deficit that, hey man, there's no load on your colon whatsoever. Which, by the way, if you're over the age of 50, is a beautiful thing, and that allows your colon time to repair. Right. Because a lot of us have massive colon damage from the crap that we eat. And it's just true, and it's a big deal. We're over the age of 50. We talk about our bowel movements now, so we're allowed. So, and the other thing I need to do is I need to cut down the amount of coffee I drink, which I think is beginning to happen on its own anyway.
Right.
Because the better my concentration is, the less I'm constantly like, oh, I should get up and putz around and like avoid working and then go grab another cup of coffee, which then feeds the distraction thing. And then if you focus and you're capable of focusing for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time, you get a whole bunch of work done. Oh shit! All of a sudden, like, hey, I have an afternoon to do nothing now. Now what do I do? I work at home, then I eat. No, I don't. I don't have to eat, but sometimes I do. I have the option of eating. So. No, the number of things that have changed, aside from the fact that, well, I just lost 30 pounds and I'm back down into a level of weight that puts me, I have to build muscle. It's now time to start going to working out and rebuild some muscle and stuff. We started doing that. For the first time in my life, I'm watching my wife work out, which is the strangest thing I've ever seen. Like actual, honest to God, moving iron and stuff. Who are you and what have you done with my life? But I'm not complaining.
Very good. Very good. Tom, listen, thank you so much. I so appreciate this, right? Sure. And we've covered a lot. And I'll say to everybody who's watching, please subscribe, comment, like. And between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your pockets with crypto profits. This is Crypto Rich and Crypto Tom signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.
Take care.